Hey there, good evening. Nice to see you. Welcome to the
See you.
Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's program where we talk to reporters and writers and editors and all different people who are putting stuff out. And in our second segment, we usually do kind of lighter things and things about other kinds of subjects. And in our second segment, we're going to talk to a school group that you are going to want to see and hear. But right now, we're going to go to an old friend, a longtime friend, Professor Alon Ben-Meir. Dr. Ben-Meir is a retired professor of international relations, formerly at NYU's Center for Global Affairs, senior fellow at the World Policy Institute. Nice to see you again, Dr. Ben-Meir.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure.
And he's an expert on Middle East politics and affairs, specializing in peace negotiations between Israel and the Arab states. He's been directly involved with various Track 2 diplomatic negotiations, is a staunch advocate of the Arab Peace Initiative. You wrote a piece that I was like, wait a minute, on the march to destroy Israel as we know it. Explain to me why, number one, what Israel as we know it is, and then why your concerns that Israel being destroyed as we know it, which would be a significant thing for the Jews in America, but for the world as we know it as
Well,
well.
exactly that. And when the vision of Israel founders was to create a state for all the Jews, regardless of what sort of their denomination, be that reform, conservative, or otherwise. That is the whole idea of the ingathering of the Jews. What this government is extremely to the extreme to the right. I think they are allowing the religious institutions or the religious parties to have undue influence over the state. So the separation, so to speak, between state and church, in this case, state and synagogue, does not really, it's being blurred day in and day out. So when you alienate the vast majority of the Jews, which really represent more than 2/3% of the global Jewry, are Reform and conservative. And when you alienate that segment, which is the vast majority of the Jews around the world, from what Israel is doing today, to me, that is no longer Israel. No longer is living up to the vision and the dreams of its founders. And if this government continue on its current track, I believe that Israel will further deteriorate to a point where we will no longer live up to these promises. And this is my main concern.
Mm-hmm. Just hearing you talk and knowing that Benjamin Netanyahu was elected once again, um, it, it is it analogous to people who say that Donald Trump's emergence in the United States, obviously he was the president and now he's running again, has also changed the nature of democracy in the United States of America, that many people say it's becoming a place that we no longer recognize, and there's concern if he's reelected that democracy would not be the same as we know it. Is there an analogy here between those two emergence of those two officials?
There's definitely an analogy, but we have to also understand that the movement toward the right is not only limited to Israel and the United States. We are seeing this all over, including two countries within the EU, Hungary and Poland, for that matter. So this tendency for dictatorial regimes or authoritarian regime, it is not no longer to Israel and to the United States. It is spreading all over, and that there is democracy on the whole. It's under threat just about everywhere, and that is really the most worrying thing that is happening now. What is worse in Israel? You would not think that a Jewish state, the only Jewish state, that becomes an occupying power, and it is led by criminals. Here you have a prime minister who is indicted on 3 different crimes, and now he wants to change the judiciary so that he will not stand trial and will not be punished for what he has done. So can you imagine? I mean, maybe in the United States we can tolerate, or we can possibly move beyond Trump sooner or later. After all, this is a 250-year-old democracy, and I think we have the institutions built in so that we can overcome even the phenomena of a Trump. But Israel, with no constitution, to allow this type of the government to come to power and begin to dismantle the principal elements of democracy in Israel itself. That is the dream of the Jewish people after 2,000 years. To me, it is totally and completely unacceptable.
I'm going to disagree slightly because there's a lot of. I mean, certainly look at what Republicans are trying to do to investigate the FBI, and certainly Donald Trump is. And I don't mean to keep coming back to this, but it resonates to me that this is what's going on now. Is this whole challenge to the judicial system. Obviously, the attack on the Capitol and all that. We don't want to get too deep into that, but it's hard for me not to respond that way that we see it.
Well, no, but I mean, you're right in the sense, because what we are witnessing today, the way the Republicans are behaving is shameful to say the least. But what I'm saying is we have much stronger institutions here that will be able to withstand this kind of disruption in our political system.
But you're saying that in Israel they don't have that kind of infrastructure.
We don't have that safeguard because the democracy in Israel it's only 70 plus years old. Moreover, in Israel, at every election, you have 20, 25 parties running. So Israel is not a cohesive society. Israel is polarized, and now it is more polarized than ever before.
You try to put a barometer on it from a distance from here, and my sense was there was a point in recent history where we were getting closer to some normalized relations between Arabs and Jews in Israel, and now my sense is clearly that lines are being more definitively drawn so that they are not getting closer. How will the effect of all of this political movement affect the Arab-Israel normalization? Are we now further away, as I suspect, from what I sense?
I think it's further away in a sense. The Abraham Accord was a great beginning for other countries to normalize relations with Israel, namely Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Morocco,
Right.
and the Sudan. There was a big hope that Saudi Arabia will come along. But as long as there is no agreement, no peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians, in my view, under no circumstances, that further normalization between Israel and the Arab countries will continue. It is going to stop. Mm-hmm. Now, when you watch the day in and day out violence between the two sides, when you see Palestinians basically killed every single day, when you see revenge and retribution are taking place by the Palestinians. Today, this atmosphere is boiling, and this got to, first of all, has to calm it down. But more than that, the Palestinians need to see to have a hope that somewhere along the line they will be allowed to establish a state of their own. I maintain very strongly that unless eventually there is a Palestinian state, the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians will not come to an end, and the price that both sides will be paid will be extraordinarily high.
This week, Israel launched allegedly, I mean, I don't know that Israel has admitted to it, but both the U.S. and others have said it's true, launched a drone attack on an Iranian military facility. Number one, do you think that in fact Israel did it? And number two, if so, what were they after? And then, of course, number three, how does this fit into this whole idea of trying to create peace in the world as opposed to more?
Well, I mean, Israel, not just Netanyahu, every Israeli government has been concerned about Iran's nuclear program. There's no question.
I believe that's when you and I talked last on Bronx Talk. It was about those very issues.
Yeah, for good reason. But Israel has been, for years now, trying to degrade or slow, I should say, the Iranian progress as far as the nuclear development is concerned. And so they've been killing scientists. They have landed and installed and took boxes and boxes of sensitive information about the Iranian nuclear program. And I'm not surprised in the least that Israel will be undertaking this kind of attack in order to slow the progress. Israel, however, cannot stop Iran to acquire a nuclear weapon if Iran is so determined to achieve that. Hence, I think it was a terrible mistake
A mistake.
on the part of Trump to withdraw from the Iran deal.
Yes, of course.
Today, Iran is much better, has more purified uranium, 60%, which they can convert into 90% purity, which is good for a nuclear weapon. So today, Iran is a much better position than it was before. Than before Trump withdrew from the deal. And so Netanyahu and Trump made a terrible, I think, horrific mistake. And so we're going to have to see now what's going to happen. The prognosis is not good for the future.
What might reverse the trend that I mean, it's horrific to think about any democratic state, even, Ukraine or any democratic state, to lose its independence would be devastating. What would reverse the trend? Is there anything out there?
Where?
Well, the trend that you say that on the march to destroy Israel as we know it, is there a march to go in the other direction?
I feel very strongly that there's going to have to be new government that adhere and respect the law of the land. That is, Israel should not be tampering with the judicial system. That is what keeps democracy alive. There's got to be accountability. If just imagine this: the Supreme Court make a decision about anything, and then by a majority of one in the parliament, they can overturn the decision of the Israeli Supreme Court. You are basically put a dagger in the heart of Israel democracy. That should not be allowed.
Well, Professor Alon Ben-Meir, thank you so much for helping us clarify what you meant. And we certainly hope in the name of peace that that there's enough democratic minds in Israel to, quote unquote, and I don't mean this literally, to fight back and reverse the trend that you're very concerned about.
For Israel's sake, yes.
Yes,
exactly.
I think for all of our sake, just like we can't lose a democracy in Ukraine, we can't lose a democracy in Israel. It's an ongoing struggle. Dr. Ben-Meir, let's have you back at some time soon, hopefully with better news.
Hope so. Thank
you so much. Folks, we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll change gears totally, and we're going to talk about a wonderful music program in a school that will make you real happy. They're going to be at Carnegie Hall. We'll be right back.